not doing things that are, extraneous or not meaningful. At least that's what we're attempting to do.
Yeah, so I will piggyback on that as well. I was going to say, definitely still use social media, but make it thoughtful. I think, I think you said, be compassionate, Jennifer, but I'm in a position where I get to see marketing messages from multiple companies all at once because I'm consulting for more, multiple companies at once. And, it's pretty obvious, but we can tell that everyone's trying to push sales on social media. It's just part of the business. It's just the way it works. But I think it's good to diversify your message here and there and just have a little bit of empathy and connect with people, because people are sitting on the couch. They need connection more than ever. And you'll have plenty of opportunity to drive sales on social media, but try to drive some empathy, try to be compassionate. It's really important. And it'll help break up all your messaging, and it'll break up all of the sales and everything else they're receiving in their email inboxes, social media inboxes. It's really important.
That's well said. Yeah, I don't think I would agree with the initial question with less being more. I think it's really important to not be insensitive or tone deaf. For us specifically, we did see a spike in sales during coronavirus, and dissecting that, most of them were due to new orders that were non-recurring sales coming from organic traffic to the site, which in my opinion translates to people just actively searching for a remedy to help with their excessive worrying and their stress and being at home alone, combating the effects of isolation. So, I think with us, these were just problems that our company had been addressing and providing a solution for since our inception. So it felt kind of weird to chop up our message according to what was going on. Again, also while also being sent, also showing that empathy and then not being insensitive to the elephant in the room. But I think like now more than ever is where we feel the need to provide value to our squad members and reassure them that we have their backs. And it's really cool because the reality is that we've seen an influx of heartfelt DMs and social posts, just elaborating on how our product is helping our influencers and our customers get through the tough times. So all boiled down, definitely not going to ignore the elephant in the room and pretend like coronavirus isn't happening. I don't think that's the right approach. But at the same time, I don't think being silent is either.
I think now, like Mike was just saying, less is more isn't necessarily what the case is. But I think if you tune your attention on social media now to listening to your followers and engaging with your followers, it's a really prime opportunity for you to get to know what's happening in their lives, specifically with the changes they might be facing with Corona. They might be spending a lot more time on their social media, and it gives you another opportunity to get to know your customers better, get to know your community better, and really convert that into valuable data that you can utilize to better message them. And at the same time, just making sure that you have a mindful note of compassion in everything that you're posting, where you are aware of everything that's going on in the world, and what you're wanting to do is provide that relief that cannabis is, or even just that connection that a lot of people are lacking right now, being that they can't necessarily see their family and friends as often as they would.
That's a good point. No, I guess my next question would be, personally for you guys, have you seen coronavirus impact marketing performance in specifically the cannabis industry? And if so, what have you seen it do?
I think we at Kikoko, particularly in the beginning, I think we all saw a spike in sales. We've leveled out a bit, but we definitely saw the spike in sales. I think people didn't know, what to expect, and if the stores were still going to be open. So I think there was a run on cannabis as we all probably experienced, and from what I'm hearing on my tour and talking to a lot of stores. And so again, we're trying to be sensitive around our messaging around what people are experiencing. And so, we've leveled out on our sales, but we're still being, consistent with our messaging.
Yeah, and so I'll follow that up. What I've noticed is kind of like what Mike was saying earlier, a lot of new customers coming through. Maybe not because I don't deal on the dispensary side, but the digital campaigns in the background of it, and so the back end. And I've seen a lot of new customers on the back end, and that's across the board because I also work not only in cannabis but apparel, coffee, different industries, and there is just a heavy amount of new traffic, and so that's something to take into consideration in marketing and your messaging, and as well as just educating those new customers, because it's going to be a big, there's a lot of people at home, they're either working from home, they don't have to worry about smoking anymore necessarily for work. That's a new concept. And so they can actually, they could take on smoking, which or consuming. And so that's kind of a new approach. And so I think education for these new customers is really important.
Yeah, I think, the influx of CBD companies in general pre-coronavirus has definitely saturated the market. We're definitely feeling the effects of that. And I think, I feel like I see a new press release every week, highlighting another CBD company launching. I know I personally used to tell people I owned a CBD company back in like 2017, and they thought it was the coolest thing ever. And now I feel like a dime a dozen when I bring it up. It doesn't sound as enticing as it used to. It just doesn't garner the same response. But I think, this increase in competition, ultimately it makes it much tougher to acquire new customers. What we try to do is at Sunday Scary is just concentrate. It's kind of echoing what Maddie said in the last question, is concentrating on our current customer base and providing value where we can there, and zooming out and focusing on that. So increasing retention, it's always a big focus of the company, and then always doing our best to stand out too. I think that in a sea of different companies, instead of participating in ingredient-based marketing, we're trying to sculpt this lifestyle brand and build a community that people want to be a part of. And that's how we're going to try to separate ourselves from the pack.
I have kind of two notes I want to speak to here, one being product and then one being just a shift in how cannabis companies market. Part of distribution, we service about 17 brands right now. So I did notice that, many people, where they were still purchasing cannabis, they are now purchasing a different type of cannabis. So whether they shifted from vaping to trying flower, or shifted from flower to being able to try edibles, they have a stereotypically a longer bit of a high. People don't always know how they'll react to edibles, and everyone has that story. But, it really gave people the opportunity to get to know themselves and how they use cannabis, being that they were at home more often, as Dante said. And then the second piece is that, I actually started in cannabis as a brand ambassador part-time before taking on more full-time roles. And cannabis marketing traditionally is face-to-face. You have a brand ambassador, you have a representative from the brand in the store interacting with customers and also interacting with bud tenders or, management of the stores. And we've all taken a step here to, not be in those public spaces and step away from the community that cannabis revolves around, but we've shifted that community to a more digital space. And that's been hard for some people because you don't always communicate well in person, or as well as you would in person over email or on a flyer. There's so much that can be said with your face, but I do believe that everyone's really taken the heart that is the cannabis community and applied that to our new ways of marketing.
I definitely always liked events because it's such a personal experience, like with someone, it's so intimate. But now sometimes we're on these Zoom calls and there's like a ton of people on it. Sometimes you can't even talk to them. So it's definitely a new way of adapting to getting to know our community and putting information out there. That's all very good points, you guys. I want to go into our second segment, which is email marketing, which, as everyone knows, it's been on a huge spike lately. I'm sure you guys have been doing more of it too. So my first question will go to Jennifer. And my question is, all of your emails are so lovely. That's not a question, I'm just saying that because they are. What are some design best practices you keep in mind when creating emails for customers?
I wish I could take credit, but I can't. So that we have a fabulous team, and I'm not. I'm really not involved on the as much on the marketing side. So I'm probably not the best spokesperson, but uh, uh, they do a great job. So my hat off to them. I think it's it's starting with a really clear voice. I mean, we spent a lot of time figuring out and articulating who we were and what's our brand about and who we're serving. And with that being clear, we want to be fun, we want to be relatable, and even in these times, even though it's a pretty serious time, we still want that our brand essence to come out. And we also, speaking to what everybody else said, education is so important, particularly with a lot of these newbies that are coming. So we're really focused on the education and everything that we do. But yeah, there is a science certainly to email marketing. There's no question about it. But the practice of designing and iterating and testing, and a lot of this is also seeing what works, seeing what resonates with customers. But really staying true to your brand and your ethos. And we're lucky that we've got a really passionate following. And at the end of the day, like the other brands, we're really helping people solve problems that are very personal to them. And so if you can deliver on that, if your products are delivering on that message, then you're in the ballpark. But we never want to oversaturate people with emails, and we want to make sure that they're meaningful and that they're very true to the brand. We spend a lot of time and money and effort on photography. That's a big part of our brand, with original content. So the emails that you're going to see from us are always we'd like to think that they're well designed and just delightful, delightful to open and delightful to receive. And like you say, that's such a huge compliment, Savannah, that you said lovely. Thank you very much. And on behalf of the team. So that's what we want to evoke from people when they get that, and be delighted and pleased to receive it, because we're all getting so many emails. I mean, I'm getting, quadruple the number of emails that I got before. I'm like, I didn't sign up for this. So
Right.
I'm unsubscribing myself all the time. So, hopefully we delight, and that's what we strive to do.
Totally. What time of the day do you think is the best time to send out emails, at least for your audience?
Yeah, I don't know. We actually talked about that because I knew I got that question. And I asked Julia, who runs all that stuff. They're still experimenting with a lot of different things. I know that some people have a very specific time and a day of the week to do that, but we do a lot of experimenting. So I can't really pinpoint a specific day or a time. Ask me in a few months and I might have a better answer for you. I'm sure the other panelists would probably have a better answer than I do.
Does anyone else want to speak on like what the best time of the day is to send out an email?
This might be centered around my experience with the Restaurant Association. We typically would send our emails out in the middle of the day when restaurants were closed. A lot of restaurants closed for lunch, or obviously you don't want to send during the dinner rush, but just go back to taking the time to engage with your audience and really look at it, tracking your click-through rates and your open rates over time. If you don't know the best time, then the best thing to do is to try a couple different schedules and then adjust from there. I think adaptability can be spoken to at any point in the marketing circle, whether COVID or not.
So how many emails would you say you should be sending in a week, roughly? This can go to anyone or Jennifer.
I'll let the other panelists go. I need to go first.
On who you're sending it to, right? So if you have somebody that is a subscriber and they unsubscribe, you probably want to hit them right away, unless you just sold them a bottle and they have a stash already at their house. I mean, I think the same goes for an abandoned cart flow or email flow, where if it's hot and somebody has it in their cart and then they leave, they're probably having really high intent to buy. So you want to offer them an incentive to jump on board by giving them a coupon right away versus wait 3 days. So I think it just depends on the flow. With campaigns, I think we like to do 1 to 2 emails a week, and that's just our newsletter and other value that we provide. But the flows, it all depends on where they are in the buying cycle, at least for us.
Oh, okay. Sorry, I'm getting used to this whole virtual thing. I'm like, am I muted or am I unmuted? I never know. All right, well, my next question is for Dante. We know you're an email marketing whiz, so let's dive into it. What is one thing you can do to improve CTR on e-commerce and email marketing campaigns?
For me, it would be the subject line. I think most people overlook the subject line. It is the most important thing in click-through rates. And it kind of sounds counterintuitive because it has nothing to do with what's inside your email. But at the end of the day, if they're not opening your email, you're not going to have click-through rate. And so if you can get your open rate really high, you're going to see that follow along with the click-through rate. And I've seen that across multiple campaigns between every industry I've worked in. If you have a higher open rate, it's going to translate into a better click-through rate. And then also, I guess like a second follow-up tip point on that is it's kind of an easy one as far as a design tip, but bring whatever your call to action is in the click-through button to the top of the message, the top half of the email. It makes it a lot easier, and it's easier, even if they don't read the whole email, which if they are going to read the whole email, they will click through, guaranteed. So it's good. Put one at the bottom as well, but put one at the top too. It's going to increase that click through rate.
That's good information. So what elements in an email should be A/B tested and why?
So I'll fall back on my subject line. Definitely the subject lines. You always want to A/B test subject lines. A/B test your visuals. I kind of have a mock format that I default on. It's not going to work for everybody, but I like to have some sort of imagery or content in the top half. And then, so you want to A/B test your subject line, your visuals, and what I do, and it's not, there's no perfect formula to emails. It's going to change on who your customer segment is. But I always test my first 2 sentences in an email and my last 2 sentences in an email. I think it's a different method that, not a lot of people are doing, but that's going to hook the reader, and that's also going to close the reader. And I've noticed differences between all the campaigns that I've ran. I have seen a big change between the first 2 sentences and last 2 sentences.
What is the one thing to remember when you're writing email copy?
For me, it's my personal brand that I do when I'm writing emails as a copywriter, but I like to think as if I'm writing to one person. So I'll sit down and really just think, I'm not going to use words like we, like us, like you guys, like them. I want to make sure I'm just talking, hey, how are you doing? I want to create a really personal connection, an intimate connection, because that's really, that's your not one opportunity, but you get to be really direct with that customer in an email. And, I think it's easy, it's safe to say people know it's coming from an automated system most of the time, but it's also nice to have that personal touch. And I think I've personally found the most success when CEOs give me the right, or they add some copy in themselves where it becomes more personal and it's signed by somebody within the company. That's very beneficial.
Okay, that makes sense. That's good information. So my next question is for Mike. What email marketing software do you use and why?
Yeah, for sure. Dante, thanks for that. That was super informative, man. Appreciate it. Yeah, for email marketing.
No problem.
Yeah, no, dude, I'm gonna hit you up to chat further. That was great. Good stuff. Yeah, so we use Klaviyo because a couple different reasons. One, it's just user friendly. It also integrates easily with the platforms that we use in our e-commerce ecosystem. So Just Uno, which is a software we use for the on-site pop-ups, Facebook, and then ShipStation, which is our fulfillment software. And it just allows for complex automation and allows us to customize our flows and campaigns. And I think that I know accolades to Johnny Grant. He's our ops manager, and he's the one that's taken the helm on our email marketing. He does an amazing job with that, but it gets pretty complicated when you have a bunch of flows set up for kind of what I discussed earlier for where the customer is in the buying cycle, and making sure that they don't get bombarded, that they're sent at the right time. It's extremely valuable to look into that stuff. And Klaviyo does a really good job. They have a very helpful and informative customer service team that will provide insights on certain initiatives that we're doing and how we're doing them.
I know that I'm only slightly familiar with MailChimp with my emails. I'm not really into email marketing. That's why I'm so interested by this topic. But so Klaviyo, right?
It's pronounced Klaviyo, unless I'm wrong, Dante. That's right? Klaviyo?
Yeah, that's right, Klaviyo.
So basically, if say someone sends, like you guys send someone an email and they open it but don't respond to like some certain promotion, is there like a chain of emails that get sent to them? Like if they press this button on the page, they get sent this email. If they buy this, they get sent that email.
Yeah, like I think a good example is on our site, we have a scary quiz is what we call it. And it's this really fun interactive quiz that has like GIFs in it and memes in it, kind of showing the customer who their avatar is with that's associated to whatever product that we'll present to them after they fill the quiz out. So let's say you get I think there's 8 questions, you fill them all out, a product will populate, and we'll have romance copy on like why that's your avatar. And if you don't buy, then we'll make sure to capture that person and send them an email flow that's specifically designated for whatever product that they purchased. So is that kind of what we're talking about? So everybody will get like a different flow then based on whatever response that they get.
That's crazy. Yeah, no, that's why I was just curious about it. Cause so there's a bunch of flows that go to like, however that specific customer is. That's pretty cool. I didn't know that. So my next question is, what do you guys do to increase your subscriber list on email marketing or just in general?
For anybody?
Yeah, anyone can answer this one.
Got it. I mean, Dante is not
no, yeah, I could I mean, there's a few different strategies. It's really going to depend. You know, I'm trying to think specifically in the cannabis industry. One thing that's really good is, you know, do you have clear packaging, and is there some sort of lead capture on packaging? Because I'm thinking from a dispensary level now, and there's a lot of ways to do that. And I think it's, you know, there should be a call to action on the package, and I think this gets left off a lot actually. And so it could be something as simple as a QR code on the package. You know, it says, you know, scan this code for more discounts to become a part of our community, a part of our team. That's a good point of sale right there. And then also blow-ins on the counter. I know it's a little bit more old school, but just paper flyers on the counter that entices them with some sort of discount, 20, 50% off. And then I'll take it back to the digital side of things. I mean, there's a lot of ways to do it. I know on certain sites, I have people sign up through Facebook Messenger on a pop-up because it's very easy. For some reason, people feel a little bit more comfortable with Facebook Messenger. And then lottery games on websites too. There's a spin the wheel. There's a million different types of games you could play. So, you know, for a different chance, that's your odds of winning some discount, some prize, some free giveaway. And I think that's really enticing. And usually what I like to do on that and what I've seen is, you know, you have the option on these games to set whatever the discount is. And I like to have like 90% of the winners at least get 20% off. And then about 10% of the winners get like 50 to 60% off. So then you could talk about those people that got 50 to 60% off, because they usually will reach out because they're pretty excited. So games are a pretty good part online.
Yeah, I would, what Dante said, I totally agree. I came from the gaming industry prior to cannabis. And so gaming theory and leveling really informs a lot of my thinking. And then one of the things that we're doing, which is a super tangible thing, we're launching it this month or next month. We're launching Refer a Friend. And so that's a real tangible thing that we can do to increase, you know, our connection and our community.
No, that makes sense. Maddie, I know you ran an email newsletter for California Restaurant Association. How did you track click-through rates and what did you do to increase them?
So two of the programs that I've become familiar with for email marketing are Constant Contact and Salesforce. So both of them have a function for you to be able to look at any past email that you've sent. And most platforms are like this, where you can see which of your links and which of your pieces of content generated the most click-through rate. Something that was really interesting about the newsletter that I ran is that we sent it to about 20,000 subscribers. And something I came to notice was that even though it might not be content that's directly related to your audience, mine at the time being the restaurant industry, you can oftentimes find interest pieces that will help direct your subscribers' attention within the email. So a lot of your pieces where you might, as the advertiser, want to draw attention, might be an event that you need more attendees for, or generating more subscriptions to other flows of content in your communications. You can definitely get your subscribers to look at other parts of the email by putting some of the more current event, more flashy pieces next to those pieces where you really need your eyes. Click-through rates over time give you a lot better of a perception of what your subscribers are looking for, rather than just looking at one email. And I think that's the biggest piece when you're looking at any form of digital data, is looking at a filter over time. I was lucky enough that my emails went out weekly, so I often compared news articles or content pieces over the course of a month or two as they ran their course through legislation for the restaurant industry. But when it comes to a product release or a product launch in cannabis, I think you have a little bit smaller of a window there. And that just goes back to utilizing your data from your social media and other content platforms to drive those views within your emails.
What's considered a good click-through rate, or like average?
I would say for us that our click-through rates that were the highest were ranging between 20 to 30% for some of those more hot piece items. But if it's something that's an advertisement, then this might vary industry to industry. But our sold advertising pieces that were definitely ads and not actual content within the newsletter were seeing between a 3 and 15% click-through rate, depending on the product or service. I think that utilizing an image, it sounds basic, but an image that is included definitely increases your click-through rate. And this will pander back to Dante's note about subject lines, but whatever you can do to draw attention to the ad itself, whether it be a headline or just a bold portion of the ad, that's where you can grab the viewer and you can encourage them to click through and actually get to the second piece of information where you need their engagement.
Do you think that on emails there should be more images or more language, or does that just depend on the audience that you're speaking to?
For me, it's definitely images. And I think the way that you structure your newsletter is another way for you to kind of pick where your viewers' eyes go. So as Dante was saying, at the top of the email, I'm going to say above the fold, to kind of go back to a print advertising reference. Above the fold, meaning it's the first thing that they see when they open their inbox. That's the area where you're going to want to include the most pertinent content for you and for your subscribers.
Okay, I have a question in our Q&A box. It came up and I feel like it's relevant to what we're talking about right now. So I just wanted to read it real quick. Do you think it's better to send personal emails to customers when you can, or just use template emails? Is it better to send from a generic email or send from an email with a name attached to it?
I guess, I'll just take my viewpoint on this one. Kind of like we were talking about earlier, there's a million emails in your inbox right now. I mean, thousands of them, really, probably more than ever, because I'm subscribing to more things than I need to, for sure. And I think it sets yourself apart, because when you use generic copyright, you're going to sound like everyone else's email. And there's something to be said about being personal. And I know it takes more time, it takes a little bit more effort. And if you don't have that subject line down and they're not opening it, it's wasted effort. So that's a little bit sad, but that's where it's getting personal, in my opinion, does help.
Got it. Oh, Oh, does anyone else have?
Yeah, I'll add something to that. I mean, I know, we get a lot of testimonials and which we're very grateful for, and just people um, relaying their experience with Kikoko. And it just, makes you really appreciate the business we're in when you get a lovely email from somebody thanking you. And I, multiple times, very often, because I love looking at those testimonials, I will actually write an email to somebody, just a personal email to thank them. And I've done that countless times. And I introduce myself, and people just, and I don't do it other than just to thank them. But they're always very, just, I don't know, they're very surprised and gracious about getting an email from one of the co-founders. And I don't know, just, I agree that putting that extra touch and being personal, it's everybody always likes getting a little note or something. At least I do. So anyway, I think personal is if you can do it, I think it's a really nice touch.
I think just to add to that, personalization within emails, I think is huge. Maddie talked about it a little bit, but when you're sending out the newsletter, just providing value in like different areas of the email. So instead of just selling on every email, we talk about Netflix binge watch suggestions, or Johnny will build out like a chill out Spotify playlist, or give CBD cocktail recipes, or just informative CBD blogs or motivational YouTube videos. And we take a lot of time putting that stuff together specifically for our consumer base, and they respond really well. In fact, a lot of times sales from those particular emails that are sent out are higher than the ones where you're like, here's the CTA, buy now. And I think that's important. Going back to just the communication between the customer, we do that, but we actually do handwritten notes a lot more. So if we get like a heartfelt
Yeah, I love that.
Yeah, Jennifer, you do the same?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm old school.
I'm old school
So,
too. I'm old school too.
Right on, brother. There's no old school.
And we get a testimonial beforehand and then a testimonial after, and we'll just do it randomly too to some of our subscribers or super fans or influencers. And I mean, it's crazy how well it works and how good it makes people feel, and obviously it makes us feel good in return. So.
No, I've personally gotten handwritten letters, and I was like, oh my gosh, I'm a fan now. Immediately my loyalty is to that company.
That's awesome.
Okay, well, does anyone else have any comments on that last part? No.
Yeah, I think what I'd finish off saying, I mean, just go the extra mile to thank people. It's just, they're our lifeblood, and just appreciate, love them up, just if you're appreciative, take an extra minute to thank them, and just don't have any expectation from that you're looking for something from it. Just a pure, authentic, intentional, just a thank you without any expectation is so rare and lovely these days.
It really is. Okay, well, speaking of social media, we are going to go into general marketing and social media. So my first question is to Mike. We all know Sunday Scaries has an amazing social media presence. So how have you used social media during COVID? Did you have to take a transitional break away from it with marketing products at all?
Yeah, first of all, thanks for the kind words. We put a ton of work into the branding and the content creation or curation. But yeah, I mean, ultimately, Sunday Scaries, we grew up on Instagram. We're an Instagram baby. So, sorry, can you hear me? I thought I was chopping up. But yeah, I mean, zooming back to 2017, my co-founder Bo and I actually used to post stupid memes or pictures that we took ourselves in a competition with each other to see who can get the most engagement. And it was funny, it was raw, it was relatable, and I guess I can say I'm very happy now to finally have a content team that does it in a much more polished and graduated fashion. But yeah, I think it kind of rewinds back to that first question, and taking a break, I don't think was necessary, but softening up the tone and making sure that with us at least, that we're making people feel welcome and we're making them laugh and we're putting a smile on their face. That's what we aim to do.
On average, do you find that social media tends to have higher ROI than Google AdWorks?
Google AdWords, like our highest converting campaigns are surrounding brand bidding. And this to me is more of a defensive play to ensure competitors aren't brand bidding and capturing customers who have the intent to not only purchase CBD, but to purchase Sunday Scaries specifically. Also, there's just a ton of obstacles when trying to capitalize on other keywords beyond brand, given that CBD is banned on Google. And then also, that there's hemp keywords that you can target, but the intent to buy, in my opinion, is lower for the consumers who are looking specifically for CBD in the ad copy, right? And social media, to me, I'm a huge brand awareness guy, but I feel like it's almost the opposite. Like maybe not 2-3 years ago, I think 2017, 2018, there was a lot more direct conversions on Instagram, specifically when influencer marketing was still getting started, and on your feed, it wasn't just flooded with products and promo codes. It also helps that we were in a nascent industry at the time and everybody just wanted to try CBD in general. But social media to me is an incredibly important just touch point for the consumer on their buying journey. And I think primarily it's a brand awareness play, although we still do see some of those sales directly correlating to like an influencer post. But we got pretty lucky with our product. It just looks different. It's a black label with a striking logo, and people are always like, what is that? And I think they're more apt to throw that up in their stories for like product for posts, for example, versus getting them to maybe throw up another product that doesn't have the brand, a fun brand behind it. So we're really happy with how our label came out, and I think it plays to our advantage. But ultimately, to answer the question, I think social media and Google AdWords work together to produce the ROI. Like you see the product on Instagram, and then you go on Google, and then you search it, and then an ad pops up. It's all part of the synergistic cycle.
They kind of feed off of each other, probably.
Yeah.
We have a question from the audience. What tips do you have for hosting partnered giveaways? Anyone can answer.
I'll just dive in. For giveaways, we always like to pick like-minded companies with similar audiences. So, we also look local. We love San Diego brands because we can actually like go to their office, obviously notwithstanding the COVID stuff, but we can go to their office or do some sort of like collaborative events and see their office or go out and get drinks with them. And I think it plays a lot. Like right now we launched Everyday Scaries, which is our gummies for 2020. And we did it with Everyday California, which is a local surf shop in La Jolla. And a lot of the people that are going out there to go on the adventures, whether it be kayaking or surf lessons, they're in that 25 to 34-year-old range, and then they come back and they buy some surf apparel, like a hat or a T-shirt, and then we have the bottles and a co-branded hat there as well. So I think it's like a natural fit versus just like pushing something through because you think it's going to work.
Definitely.
I got one little thing to tack onto that because that was really good. Like staying like someone that fits your brand and your brand's kind of message is really important. And then another approach I took towards giveaways, especially digitally, is kind of like that peanut butter jelly idea. is like, you know, who compliments you. So like if you're going to sell, you know, if you're known for flower, like what is the best pre-roll paper out there that's going to match your line? Or if you're known for, you know, like something that's going to complement you, whether it's tools, or, you know, if you're a wax company, who is the best vape, you know, like the vaporizer out there that's going to, you know, support that. And I think that really helps with cannabis because, most people do know this that are going to watch this video, but you can't really do giveaways in a lot of areas and a lot of spaces on the network with THC. So it makes it really difficult. So if you could find that accessory that matches your product or that your customers are, you know, a fan of, because you could usually go through, you know, what I've done for brands is you can go through your tag posts and find like what they're smoking your product with or what they're consuming your product with. And that's an interesting way to find good collaborations.
All good information. I'm learning so much myself from being on here. This is great. My next question is for Maddie. What is considered good content to put on social media during a pandemic like COVID?
All of us panelists have kind of touched on this a little bit, but just to reiterate, if you're actively listening in your communication with your audience, then it kind of gives you, I don't want to say a freebie or a giveaway, but it definitely gives you a look inside the minds of your followers. I think content that is centered around current events here, you know, it might be ways that you can boost your immune system, or, you know, ways that you can keep in touch with friends and family. Just very simple things that based off of life give you a clear depiction of content. On some basic levels of content, you want to make sure that your photography is always on point. Your images should be really clear and crisp and edited to fit the feed or to fit the voice of your existing social media channels. Any way that you can remain consistent in structure and in what type of content you post and share is going to only improve the engagement and therefore your following, and it's going to have people sharing your posts and turning a lot of their friends and families into your followers as well. I do think that other content that you can do that might not necessarily be in your feed would be sharing content from, like Dante said, either your tag section or, you know, if you have a follower that's actively engaging with you and they've posted something that can help wrap in others from your community, it definitely is always worth sharing content from those who do already follow and engage with you.
I know that, Maddie, I know you did some influencing, like kind of missed everything going on with like some cannabis brands. Did any cannabis brands like kind of deter you when they reached out to you about, or any brands actually in general with their social media message during COVID? Were you more likely to work with one brand because they had better messaging about COVID, or less likely to work with another one because they didn't acknowledge the fact anything was even going on?
You know, one thing I would say is, as a consumer myself, when I notice a brand that isn't attuned to current events and isn't addressing things that are going on, it comes across as them being tone deaf. And whether it's me working with them as a partner or me enjoying their product as a consumer, I'm not likely to want to share it with my network, and I'm not likely to want to use the product myself if it's coming from a company that their values don't align with mine. And that goes both ways. You know, like if you're a company and you don't have values that align with your target audience, then it's not really the way that you're going to set yourself up for success. It's definitely a two-way street. I always like to look at communication as a circle, whether it's on social media or in person, and a big portion of that is active listening.
I know for me, there were a lot of brands that were in fact tone deaf, and I just unfollowed them and I lost complete interest in them because they weren't really recognizing the issues that were coming to light. So I was less likely to be a consumer for them. So it was just a curious question if influencers kind of had the same mindset. Okay, my next question is for Jennifer. What can companies do now to set themselves up for success once the COVID crisis is over? Are there any long-term strategies they should be investing in?
Yeah, I'm not sure how to answer that. I think COVID is here to stay for a while, unfortunately. And, you know, I don't know how long this is going to be our new normal. And, you know, I don't mean to be doom and gloom, but, you know, what scares the shit out of me is thinking, you know, what's the next thing that happens, or, you know, the next unfortunate pandemic. I think what we're experiencing is how interconnected our world is. and the accessibility of travel. So I think, it's just whether we're in COVID and in a pandemic or not, I think it's always just thinking about what is the best and most efficient way to run my company or, run our companies, and, be thinking about it from that mindset. I know, we've had to do a lot of pivoting. Unlike Mike, I wish we were sitting in Mike's shoes right now, with having to do a lot more digital initiatives, particularly on the retail front. As I said, we've had to transition from in-person events to the digital reach out. So I think it's just getting into a mindset as, just figuring out what your strategy is for your company and how you're planning to operate, with the most efficiency possible. Trying to think what else we're doing. I mean, there's a lot of initiatives that we're doing to adapt, or we've been doing and will continue to do to adapt. But I think it's more of a mindset, and get yourself into a mindset that, all right, how do I want to operate, my company? Yeah, I don't think I need to say anything else. I'm sure the other panelists will chime in, but
Kind of like preventative care almost before it like happens again.
yeah, just be really, I mean, we've made a lot of changes. I think we're better for it, actually. I mean, I hate to say it, but, COVID forced us to do a lot of things that we probably should have done and just didn't have the, maybe the guts to do. And we got aggressive with the changes that we made. And I think we are operating in a much leaner, meaner fashion than we were, which I think is good. I think we got a little ahead of our skis, as they say. And I think we're running a much tighter and more efficient organization. And just, unfortunately, it took a pandemic to do that. But I think it's always just figuring out how to run your company as best and efficiently as you possibly can, whether you're in a pandemic or not. And just have that, just always have that mindset.
Did anyone else want to chime in on that?
I'll just add something to it. You said one thing, Jennifer, where you almost like you force yourself to pivot as a company. And I totally agree with that. There were some things that we were talking about doing, pre-coronavirus that we didn't really execute on. And we almost took the chance to reset and zoom out and look at the business as a whole. And there were things that we weren't concentrating on, like, for instance, our copywriting on our site, or our conversion rate optimization, or actually going through the journey as a customer and seeing like, what are they seeing? What are they responding to? Putting ourselves in their shoes. And so it was very introspective. And I totally agree with what you're saying, where it was almost like forced change. And there was a lot of adaptation that had to take place too, because you were making sure that, you weren't tone deaf and that you're marketing yourself clearly. But we got the chance to really, I know I was sitting at home isolating and I'm going through our website. I'm like, why haven't I done this before? So that definitely rang a bell for me.
Yeah, definitely, I think forced a lot of us to do some stuff that I know it made me do a lot of stuff I was putting off for a really long time. And then I like had a little bit of time. I'm like, oh, why didn't I do this sooner? But okay. My next question is for Dante. What are the kinds of reactive marketing mistakes that businesses make in times of crises?
I think it's kind of like or I mean, for me, I would say they overpromise and underdeliver when they're reacting. And so they don't think, fully through whatever the marketing message is. They're just trying to, I mean, in social media, we see it all the time. Everyone's chasing trends. And, that's okay if you believe in the trend and jump on the trend, no problem. I get it. But I believe if you are going to come forward in marketing, you should always have, follow up whatever your message is and have something to deliver on. And I think right now, a lot of people are reacting to COVID rather than sitting down. And I think Mike and Jennifer both did a good job. Like, being introspective and really thinking about it before you come forward and say something. I think that's much more beneficial than just reacting. I know, initially we had to react quick. No one was ready for it, and that's understandable. But now, we've had the chance to sit down. So just be thoughtful and, follow through with whatever your campaign message is, and be sure you actually can follow through, because I've worked for a few clients now that, we've overpromised and they've underdelivered, and there's nothing worse than that right now, especially with high stress and everything else going on.
Yeah, no, definitely. I think this next question is kind of for everybody. How has marketing in cannabis changed in the past 6 months? What do you predict will happen to the industry post-COVID in the next 1 to 3 years?
Is that for everyone or for
Yeah,
me
anyone
specifically?
can.
Oh, okay. I wasn't sure there. Maddie, do you have this one? I think you're more in the cannabis industry, in
Yeah,
the
I'm
marketing side
happy
of it.
that. I think I speak for a lot of us in the cannabis industry as to how disheartening it was to have Hall of Flowers canceled. For anyone who's not familiar with Hall of Flowers, it's the largest trade show in California for the cannabis industry, and being so face to face, that's probably, in my opinion, one of the most valuable opportunities for retailers to connect with brands. And that might be something that I care about a little bit more as our director of brands than someone who might be a sales rep that deals with dispensaries. But I think that our community of cannabis really has been fostered in face-to-face and event marketing. So you are seeing a lot of brands take the thought to, as you guys said, not overpromise, not underdeliver when they're able to switch from a digital campaign and really target the audience in a new way, whether it is speaking to retailers as a salesperson or a distributor, or it's through social media with people who enjoy your brand and with your partners that are retail locations or delivery services.
I'm just going to touch
something.
Because I'm super.
Sorry?
It was canceled this year. I love Hall of Flowers. I'm sure everyone can attest that. We all love Hall of Flowers. Go ahead.
Something else I wanted to touch on is that I know COVID has created a lot of holds in multiple areas of the industry, whether it's packaging, manufacturing, or testing. I kind of think of myself as a professional middleman when it comes to being a distributor. So communicating a lot of those challenges that people have faced on a hold, whether their facility was shut down for COVID or if they had, team members who were out of the field for X amount of reasons. You just really have to take the care to communicate that to your retail partners and to your customers that, we're all going to get through this, and we're going to do our best to deliver products and brands to you in a timely and a compassionate manner.
Okay. Well, this last question is for everybody. What is your biggest piece of advice to all companies out there at this time? Anyone? All of you have to answer it. I'll make all of you answer it.
I'll say it in 3 words. Focus, focus, focus. Well, and I'll add prioritize. So prioritize, 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 and then focus, focus, focus.
I like that.
All right, I'll go next. I would say to stay true to who you are and what you stand for. And I think a good example of this is just how, at Sunday Scaries, we feel like it's incredibly important to give back to good causes in our company, but specifically those that we have, a connection to. So we donate a portion of sales from our unicorn jerky. It's our rainbow candy, to the LGBTQ suicide hotline. It's called the Trevor Project. And it's because
I love that. That's beautiful, man.
Thank you. And I really appreciate that, because I actually tragically lost my little sister to suicide. And it hits me really deep. And I think it's important to give back to a good cause and honor her in a positive and, philanthropic way. And it's something that I can really get behind. And I know that, you know, when I go back home to Pasadena and meet up with my folks and talk to them about how many pouches that we sold of unicorn jerky, just looking at like the light in my mom's eyes, it just goes such a long way. And I think that it really bleeds down into our marketing message in a consistent and cohesive way, along with our story. So our core values and our principles, our purpose match up with what we're actually doing and what charity we're contributing to. And people can see that, you know. Ultimately, I think, you know, not everybody's going to like Sunday Scaries and our message, and we're okay with that. But those that do just feel our authenticity and see like our bold nature, and that's who we're riding with.
Yeah. So, yeah, no, that's great, Mike. That's really good to hear.
Thank you for sharing
Um,
that.
yeah, really cool. But I'll just piggyback off of what he said, and take my more consulting approach in a way. And, you know, like what I've been, I guess, telling a lot of companies, and I think Mike triggered this, is, you know, can you define your brand mission, you know, your mission? What is your mission? And can you say it within 2 sentences? And do you know your core values? Because I think, you know, like we were talking about earlier, it's a good period to be introspective. And I think over, you know, if you've been in business for 5 years, even just a year, sometimes that gets diluted. You've had to go through changes. You've had to move really quickly in COVID, for example. And you might not know exactly what those are anymore. And it's okay that it changes, but there should always be one root mission. Whatever it is, there should be some sort of value that you hold strong to. And like, can you define that still? And does the rest of your company know that? And I think that's really, you know, it's an important time to do this, just to bring everyone back together and make sure you're all on the same page and you're all thinking like one big giant organism in one company.
I feel like I've been saying this in a various amount of ways for our panel, but take the time to listen. You know, just as you have a message, so do your consumers. And if you're able to listen to them before you say what your message is, you're only going to be able to deliver it in a better way for them. And then I guess this is one more piece of advice, but don't be afraid to change what you're doing. I think sometimes the biggest hassle is convincing yourself that what you're doing needs to be changed. You might be sitting there beating your head against the wall, like, why isn't this working? Why am I not getting the results that I was getting before? And it's a little bit of humble pie sometimes to maybe not reinvent the wheel, but to say what I'm doing right now isn't working. Oh, I'm going to do something else. It sounds simple, but you have to convince yourself that change is the best option for you at times.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you for sharing these stories. I'll leave my message. I think it goes for like everybody, not just like companies. It's just to be very kind during these times. I think everyone's kind of fighting their own battles behind the scenes, and we might not see that, but to just be, you know, thoughtful and kind to one another, because COVID has made everybody go crazy. So if we can help a little bit here and there for whoever may need it, I think that that's very important. And that's going into why I made this whole event just donation based, because my family was almost affected by the fires up in Reading. It was the car fire about 2 years ago. And I just saw many of my friends' homes burnt down. I just saw like the emotional toll it took on all of them financially. And that's why I was trying to think of like a fundraiser to do. And then I was like, oh my gosh, I should do urban and then just donate all of the proceeds. So I thought that was a perfect way to help people, just not hand to hand, but like somehow virtually. So thank you, everyone, because you all contributed to that. Everyone that got on, our lovely panelists, I cannot thank you enough.
I think you said the most poignant thing all night.
No, you guys all know it already.
With kindness. So
yeah. It goes really long ways, and yes. But I will wrap it up so I don't talk anymore. But because I've talked all day about that. Thank you guys for speaking on the panel again. Your insight and wisdom is just, I can't ever repay you for offering that to our audience. So thank you again. And I'm going to open things up for Q&A now. So if anybody, oh, we have a few questions. So this question is for Jennifer. King Coco's website looks very nice. Looks like people can order directly through the site. That's very cool. Are these orders delivered by retailers in the area, or does King Coco have its own delivery network?
We host the website, and then we have delivery partners. So we do not do the delivery or transportation, and thankfully we have a wonderful partner that does that for us.
Does anyone have any other questions? I know some of the questions I was asking you guys was like from the audience. So I was answering them, like I was sending to you like periodically throughout it. So if anyone has any more questions, pop it in the Q&A, and if not, we can go ahead and close up this first virtual urban exchange event. Oh, is King Coco only in California?
Kikoko is only in California. Feel free to visit our website, Kikoko, KIKOKO.com. And thank you for all of you who have gone to our website, and I will pass on the kudos to the team because they worked really, really hard on it. And so thank you for admiring it.
Well, again, thank you everybody for coming on. Thank you to our amazing panelists. I really appreciate your time, as I said before. But yeah, that wraps up our first virtual urban exchange panel. Feel free to go to our website to see some upcoming events. Our next one will be on cannabis predictions for the upcoming election. So that will be a very fun one, as I'm sure you all know. Thank you again, everybody.
You keep up the great work.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Thank you, Savannah.
Thank you,
Mike, I'm going to
Savannah.
reach out to you sometime.
Yes, definitely.
Have a good one, guys.
Bye, guys.
Thanks, guys. Thanks, everybody. Stay safe.
Thank you, too.
Stay safe, everyone.